What is up, everybody? This is Eric, the one and only Barrier Collector, and today, as you can see, I finally got the setup going on. I haven't done this in such a long time. Took me a while to set up. So, it's a bunch of characters that I've acquired over the years. The newest ones, if you can see right here, that is Godzilla right there, and that's King Kong. So those are my new little figures that I got. And yeah, and then as you can see right there, I think that is from a TV show. Oh my goodness, I forgot the name of the TV show. I had that figure for a really long time. Well, my son did. It's an old either Burger King or McDonald's toy that he had, but I believe is affiliated with Legos. But anyways, enough of that. Finally got the setup going on. And first of all, I wanted to thank a fellow YouTuber who suggested this game to review, Jeremy Ferris 2833. Back in the June 2025 video game haul, he suggested to review this particular game as well as the Voltron one, which the Voltron game that I'm talking about is for the PS3. That game should be coming sometime in the near future. Haven't gotten around it, but definitely though that's another game that I want to review, that I really want to review. But for now, the game that he suggested and I was planning on doing as well, which is coincidental, is 8 Eyes for the NES. Now, this game, 8 Eyes, came out back in 1988 in Japan, but in North America it came out in 1990. It was developed by the company Thinking Rabbit. I've never heard of them before, or maybe I haven't, but I'm pretty sure I may have played games from this company. But I have heard of the publishers. In Japan, it was published by Sega, which is the company that also published the game Wizard of Oz for the SNES and amongst a lot of other games. But here in North America, it was published by Taxan, which is a company that also published a lot of other games. One of them that comes to mind right away is Logan for the NES. So yes, it was developed in North America by Thinking Rabbit, published by Taxan in 1990. And the funny is that the story for the game differs between it differs between the Japan and the U.S. release. In the Japan, well, let me start with the U.S. release of the story. Basically, it takes place in a post-apocalyptic future, where you play as the character. Oh God, I forgot the name. You're Falconeer, and his name is Cutras, and sorry, the falcon he controls is Cutras, and the falconeer's name is Orin, which he's on a quest to get the 8 jewels from these 8 dukes that took over the jewels and left the king that was trying to rebuild the earth after the post-apocalyptic events. And they sealed the king away, so he's trying to rescue the king, as well as takes those jewels and take them from the dukes that overthrew the king. Basically, in the Japan version of the story, the game takes place in the late 19th century, and is more based upon, I want to say more based upon it takes place in the Balkans of the 19th century in the Ottoman Empire, which makes a lot of sense. If you guys play the game, it has that old school vibe to it instead of the post-apocalyptic vibe. So yeah, so the story is that it takes place in the late 19th century, and I guess there's an evil sorceress. I'm trying to figure out the story because I'm a little bit confused of the story. I get well, basically, yeah. There's a someone named Ruth Grandler, who's a female bandit who's trying to take over the jewels and take over and try to resurrect the evil entity or Lucifer, from what the story says. I'm looking at the notes right here, so it's a little weird. The story's a little different. But anyways, back to the game. It's a 2D action platformer. If you guys ever played this game, is very, very similar to Castlevania, to the Castlevania game. So much, in fact, that I somehow I was trying to see if it was like an old Castlevania game that got recycled. But no, it resembles more of very, very 2D side-scrolling platformer based on the Castlevania games. But instead of using a whip, you use a sword, and of course you have your Falcon friend Coltrus to help you out. And it's also a two-player game. The one player controls the Falconeer, and the second player controls the Falcon. So yeah, you get power-ups and different weapons that you carry with you to different levels in order to defeat the bad guys. And at the end of each level, you defeat one of the dukes to get one of the jewels, and then also your sword powers up. So now here's the interesting thing about the game. It's 8 levels, and you can select to start in any of the levels that you wish. However, when I read upon like the guides and everything, there is a specific order that you need to play the game, because it could be a really hard. The game can become a really hard time to pass if you don't do it right. But it gives you that freedom, and it gets really difficult. But at the end of the day, it's a fun game, and I strongly suggest you guys should play it with cheats, which is how I played the gameplay, because this game will whoop your butt. It's a very, very difficult game. This is a game that was very special to me from my childhood. This is one of those games that I enjoyed playing when I was a kid, but when I was a kid, I had a hard time playing it because it was really hard. And since I didn't have the instructions or anything originally when I got it, I didn't know what to do. But eventually, I did beat it. But the problem with the game is once you beat it, you play it again from what I remembered, and it gets tougher. And yeah, you have to do a second playthrough. Luckily, there's passwords that get you along the way, and you can save your game, and you can start with the levels beat. But all in all, it's a very interesting game. Now, one thing I just discovered about this game, and prior from discovering this particular little tidbit, was that there is a company called Pico Interactive that came out around around 2018, 2019. They acquired the licenses to many, many, many games out there that otherwise they became kind of like abandonware, or games that weren't, like, some companies from those games were bankrupt. This is one of the games they acquired, Pico Interactive, and they re-released it on the Steam Deck, on the Steam, and also on the Evercade. Evercade's a system that uses these little cartridges. Very interesting that makes a lot of compilation games into a cartridge. So they released that game in their collection. So it's now the property of Pico Interactive. They acquired the rights to the game, and many, many others. Now, interestingly enough, I actually had done some research on another set of games there's a game that I want to get. That's a mini compilation of games for the SNES, and I was looking into it a while ago to buy it, a couple of weeks ago to buy it, and I was learning about Pico Interactive, and yeah, they acquired a lot of licenses. Another game that I remember that they did acquire is Gym Power. Gym Power was a game that came out in the older MS. I don't know if it's in the MS and those type of consoles, not the Commodore, or those computer-based consoles. And I know that it came out in the SNES. It used to use Gym Power in the Lost Dimensions in 3D, and you had these 3D glasses. I have the game. So yes, that's one of the games that they acquired that I'm aware of. So yes, it's a very interesting company in itself. But all in all, a very, very reminiscent game from my childhood, one that I enjoyed. I don't think there's anything out there that gets close to a Castlevania clone than this game in the NES. I can think of others, but not quite almost identical to Castlevania, and this is it. But all in all, a good game that you guys should give it a shot. Not an expensive game to own. It'll cost you roughly between $10 to $20 depending on how you get it. I know I got this copy for rather cheap. So yeah. So anyways, thank you again, Jeremy Ferris 2833 for the suggestion. I know there's other other viewers that have suggested some stuff in the past. It's been really difficult for me to keep track. There is one game I also want to do for the NES that I will be doing soon, also in the near future. But anywho, thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Jeremy, for suggesting this game. And thank you all for subscribing, for liking the videos. Please also subscribe to my family. Lily, a simple mom. Logan for Logan's Toy Box Review. And Lexi from Alexis Toy Box Review. Their links will be in the description down below. Again, thank you guys so much. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Please enjoy the gameplay footage of the game. And I'll see you around. Take care, guys. Peace out.